Welcome to Ride JBI. This is JB. Today I have been revalving a 2023 Honda CRF250R. On top of the toolbox, we have the JBI Suspension Pro Showa fork kit that we have been installing into this fork. The Pro kit is our JBI suspension revalve along with additional hardware upgrades. The reason for that is when we revalve the internals only, we can only improve the suspension so far due to limitations of the stock internal components. So at Ride JBI, we offer people two options: our standard revalve, which is noticeably better than stock, and also our Pro fork setup, which is the revalve with these additional hard parts. Details of our JBI suspension Showa Pro fork kit can be found at ridejbi.com. This explains in detail what each part does and why we use it. I'll go into a brief description now to explain some of these items. Again, the bike is a 2023 Honda CRF250R, and this is the latest generation Showa 49mm twin chamber fork. They've had 3 versions of this fork since Honda updated their chassis in 2017 on the Honda CRF line. Starting at the compression adjuster up top, not only has the base valve been revalved to our JBI suspension motocross spec, but as you can see, we have a red subvalve installed instead of the stock silver aluminum one. Reason for this is we found the stock subvalve to sometimes be too restrictive and create a harsh feeling in the forks. Now this subvalve works on the amount of volume that the damper rod, that's this item right here, it works off the amount of volume this damper rod displaces as it enters inside of the cartridge. So similar to when you have a glass of water and you put ice in it and the water level goes up inside our cartridge filled with oil, when the damper rod enters the cartridge needs to make extra room or volume for that cartridge rod. And that oil, first it flows through our subvalve, that is the red piece, and then next it flows through our piston and the valving there. The trick to getting a smooth feeling fork is having a seamless transition of oil flow. So that means the oil is going to flow through the red piece, and once it reaches its maximum oil flow, the oil next begins to flow through the base valve and opening the shims there. When there is a big separation between the two, meaning when each one opens and closes, that creates a harsh spike or spot in the travel that doesn't feel good for the riders. So that is why we re-engineered and redesigned a new subvalve for this fork. The next item that we created is a JBI volume spacer. These are these pieces here in black. What they do is take volume up inside of the fork instead of us adding oil. This allows us to run a certain oil volume in the fork and still have the fork be very progressive as it compresses through travel. When the fork compresses through the travel, it decreases volume, and that volume decrease builds up pressure inside of the fork. Now there's a reason why we want to run a certain oil in the fork, and the reason for that is because dependent upon that oil volume is when our JBI Pro perch, or even the stock perch, is going to engage that oil. So the more oil you run, the earlier the spring perch is going to engage that oil. Now the trick is, if you run too much oil, this spring perch engages the oil too early in the travel, and it can again make another harsh spot in the forks. By harsh, I mean it's just not comfortable for the rider when the forks compress that deep into the stroke. So instead, you want to run a certain oil amount below 350 cc's. But when you do that, the forks can be a little too soft. So that's where the volume spacer comes into play. We can keep the amount of volume that we want in the fork, but also keep a certain oil volume / level inside the fork. So essentially, we are tuning the engagement point of the spring perch. The next item is the JBI titanium leaf spring cup or leaf spring washer. That is this titanium piece right here. It is commonly found in many A-kit forks, and Yamaha has been using it in their KYB forks. I think the first time they did was in 2012. Then they went away from it, and then they started using it again in all their bikes in 2018, and then all the two-strokes got updated to this in 2022 on the YZ models. What's nice about these is it gives the forks very good hold up during aggressive riding without being too stiff. So that's another mod we do to improve the mid valve to the latest spec or configuration that is currently available. Now, this isn't a part of our Pro 4 kit, but for this rider, we increased the spring rates to the next size spring. And the spring was also ran through our JBI REM super finish process. So what that does is it polishes the spring to a near mirror finish. And what that does is it keeps the spring very clean, and it doesn't dirty up the oil nearly as fast during normal riding and operation. And it also makes for a much quieter fork spring during riding. Another item is the JBI Pro Perch. This is an upgrade to our JBI Pro Fork setup. The JBI Pro Perch gives the forks much more effective bottoming compared to the spring perch that is stock. By utilizing that, you can run a much more comfortable fork setting while maintaining strong bottoming resistance. This setup is for motocross riding, again. So that's what we set it up for. We have a matching shock setting to go along with it as well. We will detail that in another video. This kit is also available as a do-it-yourself install kit. It comes with all the shims necessary, already stacked up and configured. So all that is needed is to be installed properly, and each kit is custom built to order. So you tell Ride JBI the type of rider you are, where you ride, the bike you have, and what type of riding that you do. And based on that info, we are going to build you up a setting just like you would receive from us if you sent your forks in to Ride JBI headquarters in Murrieta, California. All JBI services and parts can be found at ridejbi.com. And thank you guys for watching this video.